Today, we're going to be doing a Pokemon Paradox Rift ranking tier list. We're going to be ranking cards in terms of investment, though, not just my opinion, although you're going to get some of that too. Ranking cards, the top pulls from this first row. We're not doing them all. We can't be here all day, but we'll do most of the cards in this top row, some of the top pulls from Paradox Rift. Our rankings here, we got our S tier is hold, then we got the possible tier. Maybe they'll go up, I'm thinking so. We got our sell now tier, I don't know, self-explanatory, and our trash tier. But let's get right into it. Let's start ranking these Paradox Rift cards according to investment. And look at this Crustle. Can we guess where he's going? Into the trash. He's got a nice art, the poor guy, but this one's pretty easy. This is not an expensive card. Let's take a look at why I threw him in the trash. Obviously, it's Crustle. Nobody's favorite Pokemon, ungraded less than $3, makes sense that he's in the trash pile, but I do like the art. A lot of Crustle hiding in the cave there and everything. I don't think the art itself, along with it being Crustle, is enough to keep it, but I can't justify grading it obviously, and selling it now at under $3 is probably not the best either. Clearly, with a grade 9 being $6 and a grade 10 only being $55, you shouldn't be taking that risk. Unless Crustle is literally your favorite Pokemon. And if we check the market history now, we could see Crussle's been at this $3 ceiling-ish. It's got a $1 floor, it looks like, almost. $3 is probably the most this Crussle's ever going to be. And this kind of looks like a card from Brilliant Stars. This Bolton V from the Trainer Gallery, kind of the same thing as Crustle, not everybody's favorite Pokemon at all. Generally a cuter Pokemon, for sure. Another great art, of course. But we can see, card ungraded, about $5. Once again, a grade 9, you're getting smoked. $12 only for a grade 9. And the PSA 10's coming in at $36. That's even less than our $55 Crustle. We look at our market price chart, we see the card's about $350 right now, but the downward trend has continued for over a year now, and Crussle's probably going to be doing something very similar. For that reason, he's staying in the trash. Our next card, this incredible acid trip of an artwork, Brute Bonnet. I know Mungus isn't everybody's favorite Pokemon, but I like Brute Bonnet a lot. I'm struggling to decide where exactly to put it. I wanted to put it in I don't know, but I think we might leave it in sell now, and let's look at why. And although I love this art, this grade 9 trend is continuing with these new cards. Send a card in to PSA, you get anything but a 10, you're getting smoked. Not the best idea to be sending new cards to PSA unless you know it's a 10. This card ungraded, less than $5. It did start off pretty hot though, almost $10 when the set dropped. I think that might be because it's a Paradox Pokemon, it's new, it's got a crazy artwork in my opinion. Do really like the card, but it's tough to say. You don't want to sell it now when it's half the value it had, but I also don't know, so maybe we move them into the I don't know. The PSA 10 at $45, not worth grading. But reminds me of a card that just came out in Scarlet and Violet as well. This Baxcalibur from Paldea Evolved. Just got the same artwork. It's probably why it came to mind so quickly. But another card that started off hot when the set came out. Lost about half its value now, 6 months later. Ungraded a little more than the Brute Bonnet. Just a better card. Baxcalibur's probably a better Pokemon. It's got a lot more upside on the PSA 10 side, with the card being $91 if you get your 10. Once again, the grade 9 on just anything Scarlet and Violet is not worth it. Makes grading cards very tough. But this Baxcalibur, if it shows us anything, the Brute Bonnet will probably follow a similar trend. I think Baxcalibur has more of an upside, obviously with the PSA 10 being $91, it definitely does. And for those reasons, I think our Brute Bonnet is staying in sell now, maybe moving to I don't know. Next card on the tier list, everybody's favorite Pokemon. And I say that jokingly, of course. It is none other than the string cheese Gholdengo. I really like Gholdengo. I think I'm the only one in the world. Most people hate this Pokemon. And rightfully so, I think this card's going in the trash with Crustle. This card's got a couple things going against it. Mainly, people don't seem to like Gholdengo. I don't mind the Pokemon at all. I don't mind the card either. But we're talking about price for this video and investments, and this card is just not looking like it. Obviously, since the release of the set, massive drop-off, and it hasn't even spiked up in the smallest. It's continuing to drop down, probably because people don't like Gholdengo. It's also one of those two-part cards It's just not hitting the same as some of Pokemon's double-sided cards have hit in the past, like this card we'll look at right here. I know it's hard to compare that card to one of the best cards from Heart Gold and Soul Silver, but this is a two-sided card, just like that Gholdengo, performing a lot better than Gholdengo will. And I know this is kind of apples to oranges, a much older card, much harder pull rates, much better Pokemon, much more popular. But it's a double-sided card as well. These prices here for the ungraded and PSA 10, these are just for the bottom part. I think those are for the Deoxys side. But even still, if we look at the history, the card like this never dropped down to like $20-ish. The Gholdengo is on a downward spiral that probably can't rebound like the cards can from Heart Gold and Soul Silver. For those reasons, Gholdengo is going to have to stay in the trash. Just don't think it's got a possible future increase, and I definitely don't think it's a hold right now. This Iron Hands, sell now. Every Iron Hands card from this set, immediate sell now. There is no controversy there. You can maybe put this art one in the possible, just because it is a cool art. But in terms of price, you got to sell all your Iron Hands right now. Iron Hands is taking over the TCG meta. They just rotated old Pokemon out. Iron Hands is apparently going nuts, and that's why the ungraded is $26. Might not seem like a lot for an art card, a decent art card with a good Pokemon, but now you can see the grade 9 going for $22.39. I noticed immediately when you see numbers like that, that normally means the card's very playable, and people want the card to play in their deck. They don't want the card to keep in a slab. PSA 10 at 57, do with that what you will. Because it's an art card, it does have a possible category. Maybe this thing could go up in the future because of the art, but I see a big price drop once this card rotates out of the meta before there's ever a possibility of an increase. You can look at a card very similar. Giratina V-Star from Lost Origin was dominating the meta. We can see that giant price spike in the middle of this chart when people started playing this Lost Zone deck. And then we can see as time had passed, other decks started being made. Announcements of the meta rotation are coming. We can see the price hit a floor at the bottom there. Starts to come up a little, but that's in January of 2024. And I think rotation just happened in March or April of 2024. So we can see the price is starting to drop again as people don't need this card to play. We can see the PSA 9 being the same price as the ungraded. Big indicator that it's a TCG card driving the value of this card. The PSA 10 and a 28, I just don't understand, but I'm assuming this is a very easy card to pull, and unless you need 4 of in your deck, you're probably not going to bother collecting this card. So that Iron Hands in the sell now. But let's go with this Garchomp and our first hold of the video, S-tier art Garchomp. I don't know what it's called, but this Garchomp right here is going to be our first S-tier investment. Now, I know when you look at that chart immediately, it doesn't look like an investment type card. Straight line down since set released, like most of these cards from Paradox Rift, unfortunately. My opinion here is slightly biased because I love Garchomp, and I think most people do. I also like the Terra cards, and I think this one is probably one of the best they've made so far. We can see the ungraded price at $25, down a lot from the $45-ish that it was getting when the set released. But I think the floor is here. I think 20 to 25 is the bottom this Garchomp's going to be. I think it's close to its floor, and the problem was that this card just got overshadowed by Iron Hands, Roaring Moon, Iron Valiant. But as time goes on, I think Garchomp's going to be appreciated more and more. And we see this $200 price point for PSA 10 Garchomp, which in my opinion is very promising for the future prospects. Unless this card is just impossible to get in a PSA 10, I think this is a good indicator that we could have a price jump in the future. And if we look to these other Garchomps in the set, we see a similar pattern. Obviously, they came out hot and they dropped significantly, hopefully at a floor for all of these cards. But the prices dropped significantly, the ungraded gold card being about $10 now. But once again, that PSA 10, look, $100 for a gold Garchomp and a PSA 10. Those PSA 10 numbers are strong indicators in my mind that people do want to collect this card. And perhaps it's just being overshadowed by the other pulls in this set and, of course, the dominance of Iron Hands right now. But that's going to be our first hold of the video. Let's go back to the tier list and let's put this beautiful Altaria somewhere And I think it's going to be our first possible of the video. This card looks incredible. I've still been trying to figure out if this is playable in the TCG. It seems like it may be. It's got a good ability and a good attack. I don't know. Maybe that's driving this price a little because we're seeing this ungraded being more than the grade 9. Maybe that's what's happening here. I haven't heard of Altaria decks much though, so if it is, it's not running rampant. So this price has got to be reflective of the art a little bit. And while Altaria isn't the most popular Pokemon, I mean, this art might be one of the best in the set, honestly. This is so nice. The PSA 10 at 85, not bad. You get like a 3 times on your investment if you pay 25 for the card. We see the same downward trend, obviously. But this one's starting to pick back up recently, April 2024. It's got a small jump. I'm not positive if this is a small spike because of the meta swap and Altaria is becoming a used Pokemon card now. I think that might be behind it, but I like this card. I think it is a possible future investment, and we can look to a card like this Beedrill from Astral Radiance. Came to mind immediately. It's got a very nice art. Another Pokemon not the most popular at all, but definitely not hated by anybody. Another beautiful art card, and we saw a similar price pattern if we look to the price history. Card starts off very high when the set comes out. People open the set, the price drops down, hits a bottom floor, and then now it's been about a year at least since Astral Radiance has been around, so now we're seeing the price start to rise again on another card with a decent Pokemon and a beautiful art. PSA 10 in about 65, pretty close to the Altaria in an 85. I think we can see Altaria doing the same thing as this Beedrill after a year or two of Paradox Rift. Well, let's go back into the tier list. Altaria, our first possible investment for the future. And this Roaring Moon, I hate to do this, but I think it's an I don't know. I really don't know. I wanted to put it higher, wanted it to be possible, but I'm not too sure where this Roaring Moon ends up in a couple years. Roaring Moon, this is the best card in the set, the most expensive. We can see the similar Paradox price drop. Price was about $100 when the set came out, and now it's just been tanking down to about $60. The PSA 10 and 200-ish is okay, but the PSA 10 price is going down now too. Don't know exactly what's happening with this Roaring Moon. I'm just assuming it's not the hardest card to pull. Maybe getting overshadowed by Iron Hands a little bit. Maybe people prefer the Iron Valiant. But this card reminds me a lot of the Charizard V from Brilliant Stars. Obviously, I know it's not a Charizard, but a top pull from the set. An incredible art, in my opinion, with multiple Pokemon. I really like that Roaring Moon art. Obviously, this is one of the best Charizards I've ever seen. Of course, your Charizard's going to be worth a lot more than a Roaring Moon, a brand new Pokemon that people don't even know what it really is. But this Charizard just continues to drop in price. I really don't know why. I'm assuming it's just because of availability. It must not be the hardest card to pull. And that bottom floor there of about $100 in October of 2023 is a little concerning. Price is starting to rise a little bit. Sword and Shield hasn't been here for a while. This is the top pull. This is a Charizard. So maybe things like this could happen to the Roaring Moon from Paradox Rift, but it's also not a Charizard. And if we're seeing a Charizard price drop like this, I don't know if that's good for the prospects of a Roaring Moon. For those reasons, I think Roaring Moon has to stay in the I don't know. But let's go with this Iron Valiant, and I think it's going as a hold, the second hold of the video, S-tier investment card. Great art. It's got a lot going for it. Let's take a look at why I think this is an S-tier investment. So first thing to look at here is that price chart. Same chart as every other card in this video. Big high when the set releases. Big drop as the set's getting opened. Ungraded now about $36. Almost half the price of what this card was when the set came out. PSA 10 value is not there yet. It's probably, maybe, hopefully just too new of a card. But I think this card's got a lot going for it. Obviously, I think the first Iron Valiant art card. It's got a lot of the other future form Pokemon there. Got Iron Thorns, got Iron Bundle. I think there's even an Iron Moth somewhere in the sky. It's got a bunch of the future Pokemon here with the showcase of the Iron Valiant, obviously. I think this art, along with the fact that it's got all these other future Pokemon in here, could be collectible in the future as these Paradox Pokemon hopefully become more popular. And the card I chose to refer to here is the Origin Form Palkia from Astral Radiance. Looks like, if we look at the price chart, it looks like it took that same path as these cards from Paradox Rift. All-time high as the set releases, drops, hits a floor as people stop opening Astral Radiance, and then starts to come back now that Astral Radiance is out of print. In my opinion, a great card. Second most expensive, I think, out of Astral Radiance. Maybe top 3, top 5. Ungraded in 33. The PSA 10 and a 90. That's still not what you like to see. But looking at very similar marks as the Iron Valiant. Only thing, this card doesn't have other Pokemon in it. Palkia isn't a new Pokemon, although I think the Origin form might have been new. I don't know. Maybe people would like to collect the Origin form Palkia. Maybe that's why this price is starting to rise, other than the fact that it is a great card. And hopefully Iron Valiant could follow this path as Paradox Rift starts to rotate away and people stop opening the set. Maybe we'll see a very similar price increase as this Origin form Palkia. So I gotta leave my Iron Valiant in the hold, S tier. I think it's got a lot of potential. This Brew Bonnet I do want to knock down to IDK. But let's go with an Iron Hands, another one. Sell now for very similar reasons as the other one. Every reason here is pretty much the same as the other one. This one, obviously not as desirable as the art card. Doesn't look as nice. $10 less. PSA 10 value in the gutter. Just because this is a playable card. I think you'd rather spend $15 on an Iron Hands than $25 if you got to save the money. Grade 9, $15. You're actually losing $1 by grading this card. And we see, obviously, the drop and then the meta rotation and the massive spike increase in this Iron Hands. Now, I'm not a big TCG player, so I don't know how dominant this card can be. But as Scarlet and Violet continues to release sets, I think there's a fear that Iron Hands could obviously become inferior as new Pokemon come out. So I think now is the time to sell this card. It's at an all-time high. There's only so many Scarlet and Violet sets in the current meta. I think we got to take advantage and we get rid of our Iron Hands right now. Once again, we could quickly look to this Giratina V-Star, which is just so similar. Dominated the TCG meta. Fallen off before and after it took over the meta. Iron Hands at that all-time high right now, taking over, and I think it's at that spike price point that we're seeing in between July of 23 and October of 23. I think that's when Giratina was running the meta, and I think right now Iron Hands is running the meta. So we sell all our Iron Hands. If we're not competitive players, you get rid of this card right now, go buy a couple more packs, try to get a better pull. All-time high at these Iron Hands. Any Iron Hand from Paradox Rift, I'd move immediately. But let's go down into the next card, this Golisopod. Going into the IDK because I don't know. Let's go take a look at this beautiful art card. Here we are with this underwater Golisopod with my water background. It all looks incredible. I know Golisopod is definitely not a top Pokemon. I really don't know who he is and where he's from, but I do want this card. We got him in the IDK for obvious reasons, because I don't know. The PSA 10 price, solid, about what you'd expect. This massive price drop in the middle of January 24 is a little odd, because it looked like it wanted to hold its price when Paradox Rift came out, which is definitely different from every other card we just looked at. But then it took a massive fall off. I don't think this thing has any TCG value, so I don't think that's the explanation for this fall off. I don't really know what happened with this card. So I looked to some older Golisopods to see if I could understand maybe what happened, and this Burning Shadow is definitely an older Golisopod for sure. I just couldn't find the best comparison for this card, so I went looking at older Golisopods, and this one just looks like it's been performing terribly. Obviously, Burning Shadows has been here for way longer than a year, and for some reason in the past year, this price is just tanking. Now, it's not terrible, maybe like $9 to about $6. So not the biggest drops, but doesn't look like this card's picking up steam. It's been long enough. I think it might be the time to shut the door on Golisopod. So we're going to leave him in the I don't know. It's hard to sell a card when it's at a bottom, so I wouldn't recommend getting rid of it like the Iron Hands and stuff. But I also don't know that we can say it's going to be a good investment. But let's go to the Parcel Lady. If anybody knows, I hate trainer cards with a passion, and this one is going in the sell now. Let's look at why. So obviously my hatred for trainers has something to do with this, but you can see this graft, terrible graft, worse than the other ones because these floors just keep coming. Not many high points. Most of these trainer cards, at least from Scarlet and Violet, seem to be following this same pattern. Whatever happens with people when these cards release, they seem to freak out. Then they realize these cards are widely available and not that good, I guess, and the price continues to drop. The only thing going for them are that they are supporters, and they can be useful in the TCG. But as we can see this price drop, I don't think that is the case with Parcel Lady. And we can see my best example for why I hate trainer cards, this Miriam from Scarlet and Violet base. I don't know what happened when Scarlet and Violet base came out. This card was going nuts. And as you can see, it has not come close to that $100 mark. It is about $25 now, lost 75% of its value. I'm assuming not the most playable supporter. Miriam is also much more popular, and this card is so much better in my opinion, and almost everybody else's, I think. I don't even know where Parcel Lady's from, or who she is. Miriam's got more of a story, more of a staple character, better art card, and we can see real quick, just make note, the PSA 10 of this Miriam is less than the raw card was worth when this set released. For those reasons, I think Parcel Lady's a sell now. I'd put it in trash, but it's got some decent value. It's got about $15 in value. Let's go get that back. Let's get rid of the card now. This incredible Groudon. Did not realize how nice of a card this was. I think one of the best cards in this set. And I think it has one of the best possible future upsides of most of these cards. Couple things going for it. Obviously, it's a Groudon. Second thing going for it, look at this card. What is up with this price point? This should be a $100 card in my opinion. Should be the rarest card in the set, or the most expensive. Only thing that's making sense is that this card's pretty easy to pull. Everybody loves Groudon. How can you not like this art? It's in volcanoes and oh my god. Incredible. PSA 10, 122. Pretty solid PSA 10 point. Could make about $100 if you do get your 10. The grade 9, obviously never the best. But no grade 9s in Scarlet and Violet are ever really worth it. Groudon's obviously following the same Paradox Rift trend of massive upside and then release day and massive drop. The only concerning thing right now is that it is taking a very big drop and it looks like it's going even lower. I'm not too sure what to make of that, but I'm just guessing this card is not the hardest one to pull from Paradox Rift. It cannot be the card and it cannot be the Pokemon. Now, this comparison might be a little bit of a stretch. We're going all the way back to XY Ancient Origin, but it's a Groudon. It's a top Groudon. It's hard to find the current price of this card. I'd say about 50, because I've been seeing 60s, I've been seeing 40s. This card's very old, but I think it could provide some insight, hopefully, into the Groudon from Paradox Rift. We can see this chart's only a year, and obviously this set is more than a year old, but we can see the price is starting to climb. Kind of obvious with XY and older Pokemon cards, their price tends to go up. It's hard to tell if this is purely because it's XY, is it because it's Groudon? What is it exactly? The PSA 10 price going to $424 is incredible. And in my research, slightly limited research, but it seems like most Groudons do not lose money. Now I know a lot of the Groudons that were popular are a lot older, so that could have something to do with it. Maybe it's more that the set is old and not so much Groudon. But I think Groudon has a very big upside for the future and always remains a top legendary Pokemon. So that Groudon is going to stay impossible, but let's go with this Professor whatever your name is. Another trainer card, you guessed it. Sell now, sell immediately. And of course, another massive price drop from Paradox Rift, another straight downward line. Does not look like it's bumping up anytime soon. I'm guessing there's not much playability to the card. The only kind of odd thing is that the PSA 9 and the PSA 10 are holding slightly decent value, I guess. You're not going to lose money getting this thing graded, but you're not making much. And if we just look at the chart, it doesn't make sense to hold a card like this. And of course, I'm going back to my Miriam reference. I could have showed you the Iono. Iono from Paldea Evolved is following a very similar trend, but it seems to just be worth a little more, so the trend doesn't seem as drastic. I like this chart. It shows the drama and the terrible investment in trainer cards, in my opinion. Miriam going all the way down, the best trainer, far better than either trainer card from this set that we've covered. Better art, better card, more desirable, and yet the price cannot rise. So we're going to have to look to get rid of that card immediately. I think that's another sell now. Slight bias towards trainer cards, but I think the Scarlet and Violet trainer cards have proven that they do not like to hold their value. At least the couple that we've looked through. And that is the list. Let me know what you think. We do have a couple last-minute additions like that. That's easy. We're not going to cover nothing. You don't need no slides or anything. If Gholdengo's trash, the little one will be trash too. And then my biased card, what I think is a top art in this set, Toadscruel is cruel. He's cool. He's everything. He's not trash. He shouldn't be there. Let's get that out of there. Let's go, yeah, let's go Brute Bonnet into IDK. I don't know if he's got the sell now value, and I don't know for sure that it won't be worth more in the future. We could put him into IDK. Now let's get my boy Toadscruel. Where can we put this Toadscruel? This is all biased. I've done no research on this Toadscruel. It's just such a cool card. A new Pokemon, a remaster of Toadscruel. I mean, come on. How is that not a hold? If I get this card, I'm holding it. Thank you all for watching. Let me know what you think of this video. Let me know how I did with the tier list. What cards are you holding? And did you like to watch this type of content?